Here we are, bottom of the Smash Mountain. I would like to thank my supporters over at patreon.com/bsmpod for continuing to support me in what I'm doing. I would also like to thank all the listeners and viewers for continuing to tune in. For tuning into, well, you don't really tune in, do you? You click or tap in. Well, you know what? I'm just going to abandon that. We have SF of Melee Stats fame, the official intern of Melee Stats, if I understand correctly, a Melee deep diving lore legend. I think that if anybody is able to step up to bat against Ambi, Wheat, and Edwin Budding, then they deserve all the respect in the world. And this is someone who has a lot of respect for me. And SF, how's it going? It's so good to have you on today.
It's going good. I'm just happy to be here. Just really happy to be here. I just love listening to the podcast, so it's really cool to be on it now.
That's excellent. Okay, so you've listened to a few episodes. Well, that makes sense. I post on the Shill channel all the time, so
yeah,
I shouldn't be surprised.
I see Chape in an episode. It's like, oh, I gotta watch.
Excellent. And Chape was such a fun person to talk to. I mean, that's another frequent poster on the Melee Stats Discord. So we'll get into your origin story here. I think that's the best place to start because you don't have a big social media presence. So as far as I can tell, you are just living there on the Melee Stats Discord. You also go to Melee locals out there in SoCal like Verdugo, but I want to fill in this as much as possible, and you are the right person to ask about it because who better than for you to tell your own story? How did you first get into Melee?
It was in December 2018. I went to just hang out with friends, and they had Smash Ultimate because it just had come out, and it was very fun. I'd always been very casually into Smash. I played Brawl for an obscene amount of hours back in when it came out.
Oh yeah, me too. It's so fun. Casually, it's so fun.
It was so Subspace Emissary was just my entire life for
exactly.
Fourth grade.
See, SF understands. Subspace Emissary, and if you have a buddy or a brother to play, in my instance, a brother, I mean, it is chef's kiss for a child.
It was perfect, and I loved it, and I was always really loved Smash. I, in retrospect, was awful at it, but it was very fun. So I was just hanging out with friends, playing Smash Ultimate, and they had mentioned this Smash documentary that they had been watching lately. And I was like, I've never heard of this. This sounds so cool. And so I get home and I look up all right, just a Smash Brothers documentary. First option, The Smash Brothers by Samox. And it's like, all right, this seems cool. And they're talking about it. And I like this video game. And I end up binging through it in 2 or 3 days. It's just so gripped me. And it's it just really caught me and just so this sort of I guess hobby that I had was just there was so deep and there's such a history to it that was just impossible to not get captured by the Smash community. And it was perfect too because when I finished, and then it was a few weeks later was Genesis 6, which was
Ooh.
I guess in retrospect not the most biggest of super majors, but it was still what a way to start watching Melee. Was literally
there was drama. There was drama for Genesis 6. I mean, Hungrybox getting booed and chanted against. Yeah, that was that tournament.
I remember literally going on social media to tell why is Hungrybox getting booed? I don't understand. He seems so cool in the Smash Brothers. He seems like such a cool guy. I really like this guy. And yeah, it was just it was really just from there I was just really following or not really following. I really enjoyed watching Melee though, for that rest of the year. And then I from there started watching Saves Entitled, watching his videos and his Twitch streams, and then by around Genesis 7, I think I joined the Melee Stats Discord. It's wow, there's just more people who following these sorts of things. That's so cool. Turns out I was a very I walk in a world far than I imagined, who knew a lot more than I ever knew at that point, and probably still know at this point. There's just sort of history from there for me.
I love hearing that you're relatively new to all this because I would say I had Smash in my life from the beginning, but because it took me so long to actually follow the competitive community and then to join it myself, that there's a lot of love for the game baked into my soul, and then making myself like putting myself out more, I guess is the best way to put it. That's part of the reason why I started podcasting about Melee, because I was saying I just need to get into this more, because even though I would dabble around in Melee and other Smash games casually, I would always walk away because I would go, well, if I get any more into this, I'm probably just going to have to commit in some way, and I don't know if that's for me. And I did other things, so hooray for that. But eventually it just kept coming back up, and so I'm saying to myself, dang it, I'm just gonna go in all the way, and it's been a wonderful ride ever since the end of 2018. So Genesis 6 was also the first top 8 stream that I watched all the way through.
Oh
And
my God.
I'm like, I know who Hungrybox is from the Smash doc. Who's this Pew Pew You guy saying he's gonna beat Hungrybox? Psh, yeah, right. And it's so funny because my first impression of Pew Pew You is he's just like some upstart. He beats Hungrybox one time and he thinks he can beat him again. And then he becomes someone who I've been able to talk to and is a very, really cool person. It's fun how that kind of stuff works out. But for you, cool to hear that you're relatively new as well. It's never too late, right? Even if there are many historians and deep diving lore experts and people who have spreadsheets on spreadsheets on spreadsheets, because that's what you get when you're in the Melee Stats Discord. You get the best of the best. You'll find more than just one person, right, that knows and catalogs everything. And so when you were first realizing, oh, there are levels to this, I'm still pretty high up on the iceberg. If it was intimidating, sure, but what else did you think? Was that exciting to you, or was it just sort of taking it all in at the time? There wasn't really a big thought process for you.
I think it just was recognizing that, like, it was really exciting. It was very exciting that, like, this game, this, like, I'd followed for like a year, in retrospect, almost casually, just like, following the majors and not much else. Had so much more to go to it. And there's just like, compendiums of knowledge, as it were, just locked away in this Discord. And it was very exciting to sort of just like keep going through it once quarantine started, I had a lot of time to go through it. It was very exciting to be part of, for, even still till now, to learn more, because it's such a cool game. There's so much cool to it. There's so much that's happened and just so many amazing moments. And it's like the game, I mean, if I didn't love the game itself, I wouldn't care, but I love the game so much. So just getting to like keep going through it is very exciting. It's always very exciting for me. And that's the Discord for it, because they just know so much, and there's so many niches and so much local history that I, from Minnesota or New England or the UK or MDVA, that I've, never even had access to, because I can sort of like, piece together bits from SoCal just from going to locals. But there's just so many amazing communities in the Melee scene that have their own little lore that I just love learning about. It's so fun.
So I'm in Lancaster, PA, so this is not a hotbed of Melee talent, but for you in SoCal, what was it like when you first started to discover, oh my gosh, I really am in one of the best regions of the world? Like, I'm literally in the right place to fall in love with Melee.
Oh my God, it's freaky. It's so freaky. I was going to go to my first local in like, oh God, I was going to go to my first local in March 2020. It's like, this is it. I'm going to go to a Verdugo. This is all, I'm set. And then, oh, can't go to those anymore.
Nope.
I was like, well, that's a bummer. And in retrospect, I think I'm happy I didn't go, because I would have totally just been blown off the face of the earth. And maybe just gotten really discouraged in playing Melee. But having time with like Slippy is like, oh, I'm okay at this game a bit. And then when they finally came back in like around July of 2021, I was able to start going like September. And it's super humbling when like the second person you play at a local in bracket is Fiction, and he has no mercy in his heart. He just wants to keep going on in the bracket. And just getting to play, so I played Fiction, I've played S2J, I got 8 stocked by Null, and Fiction, but I just got 8 stocked a little bit. It's so amazing. It's so, and it's like, just the depth of talent we have in SoCal. I remember going to a pizza time in San Diego, which is an obscene drive that I had to make, but it was very fun. I was taking Riken from Chile and Blassie down, uh, and I had to play Mist and Kopaka, who are both like basically PR level in San Diego. That's like that was my 102 playing Mist and Kopaka, and I think like I got like 15, 14, maybe even 16 stocked. Or my O2 was like, dang, this is a very unfortunate bracket to have. Two really good players that I had to play. So it's just there's lots of levels to it, because then I can just see Kopaka just getting, blown up by Steech, and then Steech losing to Kadorn, and Kadorn having to play Mango. And it's like, oh my God, there's just too many levels in SoCal of just like pure talent and skill. And I'm like very far down the rungs of the ladder, but it's very fun to sort of like start progressing up it a little bit.
Yeah, I think I saw it some tournament bracket. I didn't research your bracket performances in Smash GG super thoroughly, but wasn't there a more recent Verdugo where you did win your round 1 match at the very least before running into a big boy and getting hacksawed into losers?
Yeah, that's my sort of my current status now, as I'm a local 2-2er.
Hey, in SoCal, that's great. That's great.
No, it's amazing. I am utterly proud that I have progressed to that point, but I think the road a little further is a bit steeper to keep going up to the 3-2 that I am aiming for.
Right, yes, because you can get to the point where you're not getting 8 stocked anymore. That's super exciting. But then
that's always my goal versus Fiction's. Like, I'm gonna take 2 stocks.
No, you don't want to get 4 stocked anymore. We're not gonna get 3 stocked anymore. We're only gonna get 2 stocked this time. Okay, maybe next week. Okay, maybe next week.
Doesn't make it easy though.
That's really. I mean, hey, I'm glad that the top players, when they at least play you, they give you the time of the day to say, all right, I won't hold back or anything. I don't know. I feel like if there's someone like Fiction or X2J who have been playing Melee for a decade plus now, easily, that there'd be a certain amount of, I don't want to say lackadaisicalness, because they're showing up to the local in the first place. They're showing up to Verdugo in the first place. So it's not like they're showing up to not play per se. It's just that I would think that after playing so much Melee, the first couple of rounds would be, well, I don't know if I need to play my main right now per se. But you make it sound like S2J and Fiction are just like, this is kind of my warm up. So my main is out, and we're just going to mess you up a little bit.
Yeah, no, that's basically how it goes. I especially love about Fiction. Fiction is just like, is a person who can be so, it seems, prickly online and so like just, divisive, opinionated. But in person, he's just like literally the chillest human being alive, and just very, I think I really enjoys playing the game a lot, to the point where like literally during a set we had, he was like, you should have done this at this point instead of doing that. Like, oh my God, Fiction, you're so right. Literally as we're playing the game. And afterwards, like, you should, do this more, do that more. He's really just super incredibly helpful and wants to like, help me. It's almost like I'm getting my own mini lesson every time I get thrashed in bracket by him, which is a nice little like compensation. But I definitely for Fiction, but who wants to just, I think, help players get better. But I think, yeah, there's definitely a sense of like sort of taking things seriously when the top players come, when Lucky comes, or Kadorn especially comes. That just is very cool to see. They really do want to, do their best at these locals, because I mean, SoCal locals are insane.
Yeah, because again, it's not like that we have S2J and we've got Axe or this, that, and the third over on the East Coast in Lancaster County. No. I mean, at best, we'll get Professor Peen, who could be
Professor Peen.
Yes. We love. So Professor Peen doesn't live in Lancaster. Lancaster lives about, I would say, depending on where you are talking about when it comes to the county, maybe like 20 minutes away or an hour away, but close enough that he'll drive out to the local when we're having it. We're looking for a venue currently, but that's fun. I've played Peen, not in bracket yet, because I'm not even there, but like just playing friendlies with him. I'll say, you want to play friendlies? He'll say yes. And that's when I see Melee in a really, really fast speed by a player who's been playing long enough that he intuitively understands how to make his character move at warp speed, basically. And so I imagine that playing playing people like Fiction and S2J, there's a certain amount of used to playing them you can grasp, but I'm sure it still feels like it's 0 to 100 when you sit down with them. Even still now, you sit down with them and you go, this is going to take me at least 30 seconds to adjust to, because this is still so fast compared to who I normally play on Slippy or otherwise.
It's literally every time it's like, all right, I need my adjustment period to get like used to how they're playing. And by that point, it's like, well, I've lost 3 stocks. Because it's just like, oh, it's just like one touch and you're just sort of dead versus them. And it's always like, always reminds like, dang, Melee is a brutal game. It can like, you know, just, it can take a lot through you in just those 30 seconds. But it's still so fun. It's still so fun even when you're getting beaten up on by your local like top 20 player.
Top 20 worldwide player.
Yeah. Or as Fiction would say in his Twitter bar, top 10 in skill. Top 10 in skill.
And the future best Falco, all that kind of fun stuff, I'm sure. Even if that's not in the bio. I just assume, you know, he's going to have the best Falco at some point. He always acts like... Anyway, I wanted to ask you about... There's this idea, right, where you can encounter something cool and new, and you might get into it for 6 months. You might get into it for 12 months. Or maybe it's only a week long. My wearing hat periods, I have 2 in my life, and I was really cool with wearing hats for 2 weeks the first time, and then for the second time it was 4 weeks. But then I was done. I'll never do a podcast about wearing hats. And I'm just curious, what do you think was the big thing that kept you in Melee at certain times where this is a classic exit route? I've gotten tired of watching content, or maybe I've gone 0-2 one too many times, but you kept coming back is my point. So what do you think was the secret sauce, even if that is hard to quantify and identify?
I think a big part of it for me was just like, I think it was a lot of the people I met, to be sure. Like, I mean, I always like felt very welcome in the Melee Stats Discord for just like the whole 2 years I had in there of pandemic so far. It's just a very welcoming community, and it's like I really enjoyed being part of that community, especially when in time like you literally just couldn't see people in person. It was a nice like new community for me to be part of, that sort of like and sort of fill a role in, as it were. And especially at locals when you go O2. I mean, I can't imagine going O2 and then like not having like people to just sort of like commiserate with, you know? Because I was just very lucky when I went to Verdugo to have like people I feel who were very welcoming, because I didn't really even know anyone when I first went my first Verdugo. But like my TO Kavan Pipe was like super just like big homie vibes, just a very nice person. And a bunch of the other people at Verdugo are just very nice people. So it was just very easy for me to like play friendlies after I got knocked out of bracket, or just, you know, hang out with them, and just it's very easy. So I think a big part of it was just like they're literally just people I can like talk to and just hang out with, like even if we don't talk about like not Melee things. Like I think there's one person at my local who's like really just into fighting games, like Blaze Blue and Guilty Gear, and I'm not. That is not my alley. That is not my forte in the slightest. But I love like talking to them about it, because they, you know, are really they're a very funny person.
Have they recommended a Core gaming video to you?
They have not, but they have talked about just like people that they're like raging against them like online for doing like really dumb things. Because they're just sort of that sort of very cheeky person. And I so enjoy being with them. But yeah, I just think a lot of it just is this the community that like, you know, of the shared interest we all have in this very old video game, that sort of keeps me through it, even when, you know, it's like, you know, I'm sort of not feeling Melee, you know, this sort of week or this month. It still, you know, has me coming back because I still want to talk to these people and be with these people, because it's just so fun. It's so fun being with them.
I'm glad that you sort of, I mean, the obvious part is that Melee is a great game, but then the community itself is also what really helps to keep people around as well, because even if you don't play super competitively anymore, you can follow along in certain Discords like the Melee Stats Discord, or you can be in Twitch chat being a degenerate. You can do those kind of things even still. There's a lot of people who probably watch along Melee who used to play 10 or 20 years ago, even towards the very beginning, who might hear about Genesis 8 and go, wow, is Mago still playing Melee. Wow, that's crazy. Because those 100,000 plus people have to come from somewhere. I assume that a lot of them probably used to play or have moved on, but still, you just can't quite help it. You can't quite get completely away from the game.
Yeah, I mean, it is really sucked me in for a lot. I mean, I'm never mad about it. Just like, dang, I've put a lot into Melee so far, even for my 3 years now of it, which is like so crazy to say because I just I talk to people daily who've been playing for like since 2013 or 2015, and for me it's still like I'm still so much to learn and so much to go. And I try to keep that in perspective that people have been playing this game for literal decades, and I am just I'm still new at it, so I keep it all in perspective in my mind because I it has a deep history, a deep uh, deep past, as it were, that I gotta respect. I'm still new to it.
So this is a patron question from Drew who wants to know what's your favorite ultra lore story. Since we're talking about that, this is a good time to bring that up. So something that is very, very off the beaten path, and this is where Melee shines very bright, as you know. Where do you go in your mind when you think of a Melee deep lore story or occurrence or a set? Anything that comes to mind?
Ooh. I think a lot of it, at least coming to mind right now for me, is just going back to like homemade waffle videos, the Waffle 77 videos from like 2008, 2009, 2010. Because I had like a period, I think, of just like watching old VODs from there because I was like, there's just so much history here. And I was, not even around to like even experience this in real time, let alone like, imagine when Bobby will watch them. So I was just going through it and there's just so much there's so much good little details there because I mean, it's just a very enjoyable scene that you can sort of like almost be part of, like just because of the awful microphone that catches everything going on in the venue. And Brandon and Phil just sort of like riffing off each other so well. It's a set I remember between Phil and Silent Spectre, and Phil and Daryl, the NorCal Samus, were having this debate about Marth versus Falcon. And Phil's like, Marth wins this matchup so easily. It's like 60-40. And Daryl's like, there's no way. There's no way. Falcon destroys Marth. So Phil for this set, in bracket, is going Marth versus Silent Spectre, the #1 player in NorCal. Just, and it's like, I think Phil gets like 2-stocked both games. He does good stuff. But he loses like 2 games. He loses both games, and then he immediately gets off the mic or gets off the set, goes over to the mic, and Brandon's like, "So does this change your opinion about the Mars Falcon match?" Like, no shot at all. Jeff's just better than me. That's all. And it's literally just like a 10-minute set where Daryl is talking like so much smack about Phil, and Brandon's just sort of laughing along with it. And then Phil comes like, not at all. Jeff's just the better player than me, but this is still such a free matchup for Marth. It's like, oh my God. And there's just so many little bits like that where it's just like, oh my God, it's so enjoyable to go back and watch them because it's just like, come on, this is just so much. I'm so jealous that I could not be around, for those sorts of moments in a way that I was still totally ignorant about the Melee scene and competitive Melee at that point in my life.
Yeah, no, I feel the same way because there'll be something that I'll go back and watch. When I went back to research everything for my Genesis Top 10 Moments video, I was watching stuff and I was going like, I can't believe I missed all of this until it got to Genesis 6 and 7. And then I was like, I wasn't there in the venue, but I watched it. Oh, and I'm gonna miss Genesis 8. Oh, so we'll get there. We'll get there. But I mean, I exactly the same way where a big moment will happen, and I'll just think to myself, one of the first things I'll think of is just really like, I wish I was there. So I really hope, no pressure, pound 2022, but I really hope something crazy happens. Not a crab throwing thing, but just something. so that I can say I was there, because I will be attending Pound. I won't be going to Genesis 8, but I will be attending Pound. I assume you'll be attending Genesis 8, or am I wrong?
I'll be attending Genesis 8. I'm super looking forward to Genesis 8.
Oh, that's going to be so
Oh,
cool for you. That's so cool.
Oh, it's like I went to main stage. That was my first major ever, and that was just like such a surreal experience to be at, because it's just like it's just a whole convention of hundreds of people with like, oh my god, they had like it felt like I think 80 it was 80 melee setups, I think, which is like more setups than I'd ever seen in my entire life.
All CRTs, or were there
like,
monitors running around?
it was all CRTs. It was
Let's go,
all
Aiden.
CRTs. I loved it. I loved it so much. I got to like meet people who I'd only known through online. I got to meet Gimme That Wheat, which was like insane. It was so cool.
He's so tall.
He's so tall. I thought I'm tall. I'm like 6'2", and he's still like he's still towered over. I was like, oh my god, he's so big. So I mean, I know Genesis 8. I cannot even wait for it even more, because it's just getting even bigger than that and even more melee than that. So it's just very exciting. It's so exciting for me.
So
I cannot wait to go.
Something that I'll be thinking of when something crazy happens is just you somewhere either laughing your head off or getting super hyped because you get to finally experience a really, really big moment, because something crazy is going to happen. Nearly every single player, except for recent puppy owners, congratulations, Leffen and Toto, are going to be at Genesis 8. They're going to be there, and they're going to make beautiful melee music, as Scar says, all that fun stuff. It's going to be super, super cool. Oh, did you see that somebody's making some kind of music thing where you do moves in melee and music notes play? Did you see that on Reddit?
No, I didn't. That sounds so sick. Oh my god.
They said, I don't know how far away this is from releasing, because this is not what I'm primarily working on, but here's a little demo, and I thought it was so funny. I'll have to see if I can.
So much of the melee seems like, my part-time, I have this like insane project cooking up to just be like, only in the melee community. Only in the melee community.
But it's also really cool when someone is like putting legit time into it, because that's when we get things like Slippy. That's when we get things like Van City Primal with the Vegeta and Goku skin alts for Fox and Falco. They saw that, I think, I saw that earlier this morning on Twitter. I'm just going, I don't even like Dragon Ball Z that much, but those skins look amazing.
They're there's just so many like people like that in the melee scene. I remember when the break the target randomizer was released, like I think a year ago at this point, where it's just like literally you could be like, it's like different characters in different target test stages with like totally randomized targets, and it's like, what is this community that we have like a whole separate like subdivision of people who are just love break the targets and still want to like do things in that. It's boggling. It's so cool. It's so cool to be part of and just see like the amount of passion people want to put into the community. That's also something I think that like just keeps me going. Is just like, dang, people love being in this community and love this video game. Oh,
that's why I'm always happy to see a new PTAS video, because I don't really pay attention to anything stadium related, but then it's a new break the targets world record progression, and I'll go, interesting. I will very much watch that right now.
That's summoning Salt itch.
Yeah, except it's melee themed, so it's even better. I think about the possibility of someone like Summoning Salt or another popular YouTuber. It doesn't have to be anybody specific. It can just be a random 20 million subscriber person who I've never heard of deciding to do something related to melee, and I would just go, oh, that's really cool, and then study very closely to see if they paid attention. There was an IGN video about Hungrybox a couple of weeks ago, or maybe this was only a week ago, of like Hungrybox like not playing well but winning anyway. I forget what the title was, but they were just basically like, this is Hungrybox and this is how we won EVO 2016. And it was so weird that this video is happening in 2022, but it was still fun.
I was like, oh my god,
it was still fun. They did their research. Mad props to IGN. Why is the 10 million subscriber YouTube channel IGN putting out a melee video? Okay, sure, I'll take it. I'll watch it. It was good.
Yeah, give it a thumbs up.
we always appreciate when people try and when they also do legitimate research, because I think you and I, especially you, I will give you credit as the more Melee knowledged up person, that when you watch a video and you're trying to pay attention to what's happening, that you can tell when somebody's putting good research into something and they're executing on telling what they want to tell without fumbling the bag. Because when you're trying to explain Melee, it is very tricky. You could be somebody who's saying, in this scenario, you have this kind of frame data for these kind of attacks, and this is what you can do. And you can do the best you can, but somebody still might come out in the comments and be like, have you considered the V cancel, this, that, the third? Have you thought about slide off DI? You know, you probably weren't thinking about this, but the scaling factor on that up smash probably means it was easier for the person. And it's just like, oh. And that's why I don't make those kind of videos very often, SF. But mad props to the ones who do that.
I've seen something along the lines of from Ambi Sinister. It's like, I think the comment I always love seeing is like, well, actually, back in 2006, I actually invented this thing. And it's called this. And it's like, oh my God, dude. People just, they want to.
Maybe that's why Alston Melee stopped making those videos, because they got tired of people saying, no, I'm the one who invented that technique. Alston Melee, come back, please.
Please. Seeing him on the commentary at Smash Camp was such a pleasure. Oh my God.
Were you at Smash Camp? I don't know if I saw you at all in the top 8 stuff.
I was not. I mean, in retrospect, I really wish I had went. But I think at the time when the registration release, I was like, well, I don't know if I'm like totally down for this. And then like a month after it had capped, it capped like within 30 minutes. But Amanda was like, God, why didn't I register for Smash Camp? And then literally, I think the local right after, where like Fiction was there and other people who went to Smash Camp, they were just like, oh, it was the greatest tournament I've ever been to in my entire life. It's like, oh, come on. Come on. Why couldn't I be there?
I was listening to Trey the Trash Man talk about the A1 steak sauce cabin, which is also Melee. It's Trey the Trash Man, his girlfriend, and it's Fiction. And the whole Patty tweet about, is Fiction going to be one of those top players? Oh, never mind. Fiction's my favorite person in the world. Yeah.
No, Fiction.
Should have brought that up earlier when we were talking about Fiction, but I forgot.
He's just such a funny person to be with. I went to a Smash Fest with him like maybe 2 weeks before Smash Camp, where it's just, it's just, I think Fiction and our TO Kavan have a very, I literally will always say this, but I think they should have their own like podcast, or they should have their own like buddy duo thing. Cause oh my God, they literally are just like always together. They're always talking. They're always hanging. They're like the best of buds. And then Kavan will be like, you're just the greatest gaslighter the world's ever known to Fiction. And he's like, what did I do? And just always so comedic to watch them just like be together, because it's just like they're so they love each other and they hate each other, and it's just beautiful. It's so great. I remember Fiction got like 4th at a Lawless, losing to Android Zero and Kadoram, and Kavan says along the lines of, if only you'd played better, you couldn't gotten in the top 3 and made some money. Which I think Kavan was like drunk at the time, and Fiction's like, what the hell? Why are you saying that to me? So like 2 weeks later, Kavan makes his first top 8 at Verdugo and gets like 5th. And Fiction afterwards like, if you'd won 2 more sets, you could have been in the top 3 and made a little money, Kavan. It was like, oh my God, Fiction.
Fiction doesn't forget.
I love those two. I love seeing those two together. It's like every week at the local, it's like, I go to play the Melee, I go to see the homies, and I go to see Kavan and Fiction just being goons with each other.
Is there another duo that off the top of your head you could think of who you would say you need to record? You need to just preserve this friendship for the Melee community to see?
Oh, man.
off the top of my head, and this is pretty basic, but I would just love if Plup and Mewtwo King did more stuff together before Plup moved to Oregon. Like,
Yeah.
if the
Oh
stuff
my
that they did
God.
together before Plup moved, every now and again they'd be in Mewtwo King's stream, like literally in his room, or they'd just be streaming something together, but you know, in their houses or whatever. And it will always be fun because Plup and Mewtwo King just were able to just match up in their personalities somehow, and it was always fun to watch them together.
Oh my, yeah. I definitely just a very. It's such a funny duo. It's such a good duo when they're together. It's just like so. It always brings the laughs. I think another SoCal one that I think of is when for the brief time that they were here, I think Sora and Noel were just like total clowns with each other and just very I mean not no pun intended, but they were just joshing around with each other a lot. It was always so funny just because whenever we go to a lawless, like our bigger bi-weekly, and they would just be there together, it would just be like Sora just making a lot of, he's a very, he just makes, he's good at laying down the smack on the smack talk. So I think just, and then I can just I only get to see it through like Twitch chat now when they're both in the same Twitch chat, but it's still just the same sort of vibes of just like, there's like, God, and Noel's like, God, I hate this guy. But it's like, it's always so fun. It's always so good. Oh my God.
That's awesome. All right, I want to get into the Melee stats rise of SF because I feel like for me, I am excited about the possibility of someday getting a little bit of recognition from Edwin in particular, somehow in the back of my brain, even though I'm doing this mostly for me. And as I was sharing with Mikey the other day, his episode will be coming out later today for anyone who's curious. It'll be coming out later today. Anyway, the point is that I feel like there's a very teensy part of me that feels like I'm doing this not so much for myself anymore, because that was my primary thing about doing a podcast. I was like, this is for me. This is not for anybody else. And recently I've been thinking, or is it for other people? Oh no. But then I think that part of that might just be because I'm like, I want Edwin Budding or somebody else from Melee Stats to give me some kind of a color username on the Melee Stats Discord. So someday. But for you, SF, I'm very pleased to see that because you are a fiend at posting results, because you're the one who does the thing for the Melee Stats Twitter as well, right? When it comes to posting results. Right. So
yeah, I did the last night in Melee, which is always like, it's always a test to see whether or not I'm gonna like goof something up, because I think I love doing, because I already I always follow a lot of results, but sometimes my brain has little farts and just I think a few days ago I was like, Jim Morrison won NL Netplay beating Jim Morrison online. And in the comment replies, it was like, dang, Jim Morrison, the only person who can beat you is yourself. It's like, that's true. That's right.
Super true.
Jim Morrison literally tweeted, I'm glad Melee Stats does the research, and they just know the only person who can beat me is me.
Look, I think that drives engagement every now and again.
Yeah, no, totally.
They should be thanking you. The rest of the Melee Stats team should be thanking you for that, SF.
True. It was all intentional. It was all on purpose.
But shout out to Jim Morrison. I think Exile had nothing but nice things to say about Jim Morrison. I'd love to talk to that person on the podcast at some point. I wanted to ask you though, how does one you didn't get bullied into doing this whole stuff, did you? This was you actually saying, I want to do the underling stuff.
I mean, not it was I was asked to do it by so originally it was Melissa Liss Pikachu 942 asking me to help her with One's Melee, just like, hey, I'm doing this now, I'd love to help with just like streamlining down, like, here are all the events that matter, here are the streams, and I'm gonna like put it all together. I was like, oh sure, I mean, I love working with you, you're a cool person, so why not? And then I think around main stage, Edwin asked, I was like, hey, we can trust you with like result stuff. You're just like degenerately following all of them. And we want to like, I mean, before Edwin had been doing he'd been doing that. He'd been doing the videos. He'd been doing Monday Morning Marth. He'd been doing like a lot of things. He was like, hey, can you just like take this off my hands, please? We can like trust you. And I was like, wow. I mean, yeah, it was the sort of things like, the sort of like passion projects you sort of do in the hobbies you have in life when it's like, oh, I can like now work on this like in a sense. And it felt very cool. I was definitely not bullied at all. I was very much like, oh my god, yes, yes, please. Oh, I'd love this. And it was sort of going from there. And I really, yeah, that was it's yeah, that was it was I was asked to, and I was like, yes, please, give me everything. I love to help melee stats. This has been the best.
But what's with all this whole like, oh, to there's a schmoop, this, that, and the third for your very long
Oh my
SF
god.
titles at the end of When's Melee? They get longer and longer. I wanted to read out the latest one, but I forgot to pull it up, so I can't do it right now off
I
the
think
top
the
of my
one
head.
today is like, I've got nothing. That's the one from
Oh yeah, I didn't get to read today's yet.
It's like, come on.
No, they're supposed to get longer and longer.
I know. Only keep on going on like a whole little a book.
I just love the idea that it's like slowly organically growing creepy pasta, copy pasta. Excuse me. Well, it could be both. I mean, it could be both.
I always love when Mikey, who I guess the viewers will see an episode from, always is like, thank you, self yada 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 flagellate of the Melee Stats Discord. It's like, that's me.
Yes.
That's me as per Liz's description.
But it looks like, okay, so in our conversation so far, it looks like you can just pretty much take a lot of things, in stride. You seem to be a fairly easygoing person, being like, all right, okay, yep, that's fine. I'm getting it right now. Everybody else will get it in the future, so it's all fine and well. Do you feel like that helps with just being able to sort of take everything else like that happens where it's like, oh, okay, well, I haven't been able to go 3 and 2 or make top 8, top 3 at Verdugo or something like that. Be able to take it all in stride. Do you feel like that just goes hand in hand with each other?
I'd say so, yeah. I feel like it's very helpful. I think it also, yeah, it's just all. I think it's really important to keep everything in perspective. Is what I've tried to do. I feel very lucky that I've had like a lot of resources to me, available to me, and I just sort of like keep that like no matter how like poor I think I'm gonna do, no matter how poor I think I do like in tournament or bracket or whatever, it's like, well, this doesn't like reflect like badly on me in some sense because I feel very self-assured otherwise in a lot of other ways, no matter what happens in bracket. I think there was a period of Verdugo where I was like going 0-2, and I was like, dang, this feels like shit. This is no fun at all. But it was still just like, I think it was helpful to keep in mind, like, this is still, this is just the natural thing that happens, Sometimes you go 0-2 and that's how it goes. And then just gotta work harder to make sure you don't go 0-2 next time. Yeah, I think it's helpful to sort of like be easygoing about it. And it's like, melee is melee and things will happen, and still have all the homies with you and have ways to make sure it doesn't happen next time. That's always the nice thing about melee is like, no matter how bad you do, it's like, well, I can always be working on this, that, the other, to make sure like, the things I thought I didn't do good this time, don't happen next time. Which is nice. It's a nice way of feeling. I've always felt that like since I've been playing so far is like, I never need like, I always never know like, all right, I have a lot of things to work on. I'm never going to be like totally satisfied with what I was doing in that set. So there's always like, something more I can be doing. And it's a very cool feeling to feel that where it's like, I don't need anyone telling me what I have to do. I can literally just like see how I'm playing and be like, well, I have to work on that thing next. And that's, it feels, it's almost, it's very uplifting in a way, very assuring that, there's still more to go. There's still so much more I can do.
I feel like the reason why Melee and Smash games in general stick so well with me is because I don't feel like there's a part of it that's outside of my control. Obviously, the player doing what they're doing, that is their prerogative. I'm playing against that person. That's all fine and well. But in a turn-based game or something that involves a lot more RNG than just peach turnips and I guess the fly guys, there are games where it's just like, there's dice involved, that kind of stuff. And I'm just like, I'm like,
get a little roll, like, what was I supposed to do? I get a little roll, that's it.
Right, or even something like chess, where it'll be like, could you take your turn already? I want to do my turn. Please take your turn. Or you're playing Uno with the peoples, and if you're not playing Uno Staxies, then you're just like, I want to move. I want to put down cards. And so for Melee, it's very gratifying because even at the beginning, you like how it feels, especially if you're not used to playing Ultimate. I will give you the Ultimate people credit there because there's input delay there. And if you're playing on Ultimate Wi-Fi, that is even worse. So playing Melee is a very big culture shock there. But otherwise, most people intuitively understand, oh, okay, this is kind of how the rhythm is. And oh wow, this is fun. I like the way my character moves. So it can feel rewarding even from the beginning. But I like what you say where having so much that you can improve on is almost even better than the possibility of a lot of this is outside of my control. I don't know how I'm ever going to get better at this. So do you watch yourself afterwards for sets that are on stream and or recording and whatnot? Do you try to scout yourself, watch your film, if you will, to see what all is happening, or how do you like to improve the most?
Watching my own VODs is definitely like the thing I do a little bit. And I should be doing a lot more. But I do, I often watch myself and be like, dang, this is where I dropped that punish. This is where I made that little mistake. This is like, and by little mistake, I mean, here's like 50 mistakes I made in this one like 10-second like window.
Yeah. Or just one or two really bad habits. You go, I probably shouldn't dash attack so much in neutral.
Yeah.
Because that's what I do with Falco.
Oh, yeah. Of course. But more often than not, it's really just, I mean, this is like probably like the laziest, not the laziest, that's a mean word for it. I think it's the easiest way for me to always, keep improving is literally just playing my friends. I frequent a lot the level 1 Melee Discord because that's literally where I think I did my first tournaments ever, run by the amazing Divine Senator Kelly. Was just like doing the level 1 Melee tournament. So I just, I have a bunch of friends in there now who I just love to like just play the game with, and just, I feel like it's like it's been so conducive for my own growth and like as a player to like always be grinding friendlies with the people in there because it's just so much fun and I get so much out of it. At least I feel like I do.
Right. So now that you've been playing long enough, of course, it doesn't take long in Melee where you start to hear the controller discourse and boxes and potentiometers and code, and you basically have this whole thing where players who have been playing for 15 plus years have had to play with non-UCF. They remember when UCF first got dropped, and then you have the 5 to 10 year people who are like, yeah, I remember I started playing at around the time UCF dropped and that kind of stuff, and then people who are now starting off maybe not even ever touching a GameCube controller but are just going straight to box, for instance. There's just a really wide range of players who are experiencing the controller questions differently. And for someone like you, someone like me, I feel like the temptation is, well, I'm standing on the shoulders of the giants who came before us, who understand these are all the issues with controllers that can affect how you play. And I do like when people say, ultimately, you have to just, your controller is your controller. You got to play the game. You can't blame the fact that you can't ledge dash at all on a controller. Having the best controller in the world will not make you ledge dash automatically for free, or any other pivoting this, that, or the third technique. So where do you feel like your mentality is around when you are questioning your controller? What comes to mind?
Man, I've definitely felt it before where it's just like, I didn't do that. It's my controller messing up. And I think it was a solid like month-long period where it's just like, oh my God. We're just like, I swear to God, I'm not doing this dash. I'm not doing this jump. I'm not doing these moves. And I think controllers are so insane. I think it's like one of the worst parts of the game. I think is just like how much like is so much reliant on the controllers we use and how like it feels so degradable they are. But I think luckily for me right now, I the controller I have, I don't think it's like perfect by any means, but it's like I think a lot of the time I can just like, well, it's within my control. It's within my control. I'll like almost 99% of the time, and the 1% doesn't even matter. So I see a lot of people like in level 1 Melee, or just, I mean, definitely a lot there, but in general, it's like my controller is not doing these things, and it's just the worst feeling in the world. It's literally the worst feeling in the world when you don't think like you are in control of your own inputs, because in a game like Melee, it's just like if you don't feel you're controlling your own inputs, that's sort of just it for you, you know? You can there's no way to not like tilt and get mad at yourself and get mad at the game and just like it's literally everything. It's everything. So if you can't if you don't feel like you're in control of it, yeah, it's almost impossible to play and feel like you're playing well and just be happy with when you're playing. So I try not to dabble into controller discourse too much because it's so, my god, it's like it's the sort of lore where I just don't want to know. I don't want to know the lore. You know, that's the sort of that's the forbidden the forbidden arts of knowing like the Smash box and the frame one and the it's like I don't want to know. It's too much. It's too much. Too much hostility involved.
when I learned about the existence of there's this, I think they call it a FOD controller, where instead of I don't even know how to describe this, but the control stick basically has different ways of sensing movement, and there's one way there's a traditional way, but this FOD controller uses magnetic sensors to detect control stick movement instead of whatever the other thing is, which I'm like, what? That's insane. And they're like, because it's magnetic, it can never wear down. So I'm like, what? Oh my gosh. This is just it there's always more. You turn the page and you think you're done, but then there's more. And I'm really excited to learn more about stuff, but I'm not always excited to hear more complaints. So I think that's where I draw the line, because I'm interested to hear about latest this, that, and the third. But then when Goomwave stuff, there's like 3 developers all saying different things. That's the part where I go, oh no, this isn't just the controller itself. Now there's sort of like, I mean, it's the less enjoyable part about doing Melee stuff sometimes, where you're just involving conflict and politics kind of stuff. And it's less about the game and the awesome, but we're all humans, so it will happen. But I'm one thing I'm doing, aside from telling myself I should really just not blame the controller for now. I'm not good enough to blame the controller, so stop blaming the controller. Aside from telling myself that, I will and am going to be soon in the ownership of rectangular style controllers. I know. I am doing it, as they say.
The old cheater controller, as it were.
That's right. I want to cheat, dadgummit.
Yeah. Let's go.
Yes. So shout outs to the person who offered to buy me a box. In return, I said I would promote Eternals project, not the Eternals thing by Marvel, but it's a visual comic novel series. Excuse me. Visual novel. There we go. That's what I wanted to say. Visual novel series, Eternal Project. Just look it up. Okay. So I'll be getting a box, and I'll also be getting a frame 1 because I snuck in the pre-order. They sold out in less than 3 minutes.
Yeah, dang, good on you. Because that was like, that drop, I think I literally like, I just like, the drop happened, I was like, oh yeah, I guess that just happened. And it happened so fast, and they're all gone now. So even if I did want one, I could never get one.
But I'm sure you've been able to, I'm sure you've seen a box in person before though, right?
Oh yeah. I mean, I think like the Steech, like a San Diego Fox who's like insanely cracked out and just so good, and who I made a really funny Reddit post about at one point. They have a frame 1, and they're just like, they're so good. They're so good. So I've seen it, and just, box used, they're really, I've seen it, and they're really good. They're really good.
Have you been able to play with one?
No, never actually. I mean, I played a bit of keyboard Melee, which I guess is the closest analog. And that feels always like bizarre because I have literally no clue how I'm supposed to wave dash. But dashing is really fun. I can dash dance really well, but like wave dashing is just like insane. I have not a clue how you're supposed to do it. Like, I don't know. It's just like, for me, it's like the GameCube controller feels so natural and so right almost.
No, I don't know if it's actually going to work out super well. I just know that this stuff goes for resale quite quickly and quite well. So like that's kind of the reason why I
You're
was like,
making investments here.
I was like, at the very worst, somebody will buy this from me, either at the same price or a little bit lower, whatever. Somebody will buy it off of me if I decide box is not the move for me. But I was curious. I got curious, dadgummit. I was like,
No, I cannot blame you. I can't blame you in the slightest.
and also I think so to put a bow on this, last thing I'll say is that I was kind of hoping that the Panda controller would sort of be an equalizer to where the box is a consistent product and the frame one is a consistent product. The challenge, it's a beauty and also a challenge, a double-edged sword. I love how many different people do modified controllers, or they do stylized controllers. I mean, so many beautiful controllers that I've seen over the years on the Twitter where somebody says, I got this from this modifier, I got this from this designer. And it's like, these are so Gucci level controllers. These are awesome. This is so cool. This is yet another reason why Melee is so cool, because there's a community of people who are just like super into arting it up, modifying it up. That's super cool. But then the scary part is that it's not like you're buying something from Amazon where you get it and you're like, this doesn't work, and then you return it for free, no questions asked. It's, someone who's putting a lot of time and effort into doing this, and it's for something that is not necessarily guaranteed results. So that's like the challenge there. So what I thought of, or what I hope of in the future, is that the Panda controller can become that standard answer where it's mostly the same across the board. But I was very sad when it was taken away, when it was just, it was there. We were seeing all the details. It looked super cool. They were answering,
so exciting.
They were answering all the questions, but maybe someday.
Yeah, hopefully someday. Like the Panda Nintendo circuit, maybe someday.
Oh gosh, you're right. I don't know. Panda's been kind of playing with my heart recently in the past couple of months. Please.
I have faith.
Yes, well, what I'll say is I know it's going to happen because they announced it. And so even if happening means that they cancel it, at least we still got to dream those big dreams, SF. But no, I do think it's going to happen.
Yeah, of course. No, I think so too. My heart can't take it if it doesn't, Please.
We'll just have to settle for you being able to go in person to Genesis 8, me being able to go in person to Pound. I mean, we'll have to settle for super cool events like that. Zane and other players who are at Genesis 8 are planning on going to Pound the very next weekend. How cool is that? So
I think I can say this now. I can now announce this. I mean, to you, I think it'd be for the first time, but Pipsqueak will be going to Pound 2022 as sponsored by Melee Stats.
Okay, so that I was curious if we had time to get into that, if who was going to be the sponsored player by Melee Stats. It is Pipsqueak. How cool is that? Pipsqueak's going to be going to Genesis 8 or not going to Genesis 8?
No, unfortunately not, but they're going to be in the US for a whole month. They're going to Pound, they're going to Low Tide City, they're going to the Function, and then they're going to Smash Summit 13.
Very, very cool. That's a nice little build-up. I keep forgetting that Smash Summit 13 is in May, and it doesn't feel that far away, but voting season is going to start to pick up in the next couple of weeks, or at least by the end of April, so holy cow.
I know.
Well, we won't get another Nick Yangling story, I'm sure. That was lightning in a bottle, but...
It'd be cool if we did, though, Just imagine. Just imagine.
Vote for SF for Smash Summit 13.
No, there's actually no shot. There's no way.
The hardest working Melee Stats intern that you'll ever see on the sticks.
True.
Goes 2-2 at Verdugo. If you ever gone 0-2 at Verdugo, no, you won't. So I'm just saying, SF, you got a lot of good things going for you. That's so cool about Pipsqueak, though. Pipsqueak is a friend of the program, so good luck to Pipsqueak for Pound. I will see if I can just look at the way he presses the buttons on his rectangle controller and go, oh, so that's how you wave dash. I didn't really need help with that.
You'll just get it all. Like, you'll see it all. You'll be a top 20 player.
And I'll go, how do you dash back out of crouch? And he'll just go, you just press button.
It's as easy as this. It's like,
oh. Did you have any input with picking Pipsqueak, or how did that happen?
Not in the slightest. That was, I think, just totally ambiguous Edwin. But I think it's an amazing pick. I love Pipsqueak. I adore that boy. He's amazing. So I'm really excited that he's going to be in the U.S. And my only regret is I don't think I'll ever be able to like see him in person. But God, it'd be so cool if I did though.
Pipsqueak is going to travel to the U.S. again at some point. Low Tide City. That's in Texas. Is that going to be in Texas?
Texas.
So I mean, no, it's not going to happen.
No,
The dream's dead.
no shot.
What about Smash Summit 13?
I mean, if he goes to like a Verdugo, you know, maybe. Hey, maybe.
And that'll be like the 1 week that you can't make it. Oh
my God! Don't say it. Don't put that out into the world.
Mikey and I were just talking about Creed. About Creed, which is it's going to be a regional in Philadelphia, and Mikey actually can't make it to that because that's the one weekend he's out of town.
Oh,
you hate to see stuff like that. So, Pipsqueak, go to Verdugo so that you can meet SF in person. You know,
and I can just freak out and be like, "Oh, you're Pipsqueak."
Like, yep, sure.
Yeah, this is me. This is my box.
Did you want a picture, or are you done? Bam point. Yeah.
I was like, nope, that's it. I'm gonna leave now. Bye.
I mean, that's something that I'm gonna have to fight when I go to Pound. Is like I'm gonna see the Swooper there probably because the Swooper is going, and I'll be like, "Oh, you're the Swooper," and he'll be like, "Yes, always finding existential dread. How's it going, Jesse?" Like it's just stuff like that. I'll be like, oh, that
was definitely my feeling at main stage, just seeing like, oh, there's all these top players. There's Captain Faceroll. There's Squid. There's like Zamu. Oh my God! And then it's just like. And then also the realization that like the people you think are really tall are actually just not. They're actually like, you know, they're like 5'6", 5'8", and it's like, dang, that's not what I thought at all.
Oh, for main stage, are you, and in general, I should say, because I remember Mango commentating a little bit of top 8, which was fun. Are you a Mango commentator, or do you think that Mango should just shut up and play Melee, be in the bracket itself?
I think this would be better if he just self-commentated his matches in bracket. If you just gave him a headset, you know, and just like let him go off and do his thing, I think that'd be really fun. There's actually a literal VOD of him playing versus Shroomed at some tournament back in like 2010, where he's just commentating himself playing Shroom's dock, and it's just like, I'm gonna do this, he's gonna do that, he's gonna roll here, and it's just like, oh my God. So I think that would be the most enjoyable.
Yeah, and Shroom was like on his way to becoming best NorCal player at the time, back around that time, if I recall correctly. I don't know, it's kind of hard.
Some really funny commentary clip of like of Phil, because like this is a weird NorCal thing, but like they didn't hate Shroom, they love Shroom, but they just like constantly talk smack about him because he had such a funny voice to them, and so they were just like in his sort of accent, like during this set versus Mango, Phil's like, imagine a world where Dewan beats Mango. And then it's like the Shroom voice, like, I beat Mango, I know I'm number 1 now, and I 3-0 Jeff. It's just like, oh my God, it's so funny and good. I'm the best player in the world.
We're going to get to hear Phil and Brandon talk about Melee in person at Genesis 8 Top 8. Oh my gosh, I'm so jealous, dude.
It's so exciting. I can't wait.
Good for you, SF. This is like a payoff to a lot of stuff that you've been doing, and I'm really excited for you to do that. The last thing I'll ask you about is your sort of viewpoint on your skill level for Slippy.gg. What is your April Fool's Day rank?
I took a screenshot of this because it was really it's like, oh yes, this is definitely where I am. Me. I'm at 2,111. I'm a diamond level. I'm so close to greatness, Cypher.
Baby, you know, let's go.
Compared to all these losers like Morse Code 762, who's just a bronze, I'm so close. And the Golden Guardians Twitter account, who's like in the negatives, you know, I'm just saying, you know.
Poor Zeke. Let me run back. Or IBDW's at gold.
Oh my God, yeah. Who is he thinking? Yeah, Panda, you should pick me up instead.
You saw it here first. SF for Golden Guardians, SF for Panda, SF for or how about or a Melee Stats sponsored player someday. Maybe we'll get there.
Hey,
We'll get there. For now, Pipsqueak 2 pound. That's really, really cool. All right.
I'm so excited.
I know that telling the people where to find you, other than the Melee Stats Discord, might be a little bit futile, but any shout outs you want to make, anything you want to add before we get you rolling out of here. If this is your moment for a soliloquy or monologue, if you will, however you want to outro us, basically.
Shout outs to Melee Stats Discord, shout outs to Wheat, Ambi, Edwin, Bliss, more. I love all of them. That's an amazing Discord. Shout outs to Kavan and Schmoop David, who I adore, and just are like amazing TOs. And shout outs to the Liquipedia editors. I've done a lot of Liquipedia editing for Smash in my time, and they're hardworking and getting nothing. Really, they do a lot of. I mean, it's basically just a lot of community history just found in those pages of Liquipedia. So it's really, I love working with them, with Purple Panda, Zadrio, and Lufungo, and Spazer, and Arctic 233. Or Wobble, I guess, is technically, but yeah.
My laptop's too slow to look up the official name that Pikachu942 gave you last week's When's Melee, the entire thing about being the negative against Shmoop and all that other fun stuff. But
oh my god.
SF, Self-Flagellate, the legend of the Melee Stats Discord. Thank you so much for joining me on Bottom of the Smash Mountain.
It was my absolute pleasure, Cypher.